Welcome to Developing the Leader Within podcast, the podcast that brings you leadership insights from the brightest minds shaping our world. Join us as we dive into conversation with trailblazers, innovators, and change makers, spanning every corner of the globe. Get ready to explore new perspectives, gain actionable insights, and become the leader the world needs today. Unleash your potential. Tune into Developing the Leader Within podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Let's embark on this transformative journey together. Developing the Leader Within podcast, leading beyond limits.
Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, as it'll help us getting our show to others and help us get to our next milestone. Make sure to catch us streaming on Parade Deck, on Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Purpose Place Network, and catch our exclusive members-only content going deeper within on the Lions Guide Academy. Today, we are speaking with Robyn Engelson. Robyn is the president and CEO of Impact You, a keynote speaker and motivational speaker, best-selling author and podcast host, and fellow outlier. She helps women business leaders regain energy without spending hours in the doctor's office. Robyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Enrique. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited for this conversation. And folks, we're going to be talking about mastering your mindset, nutrition, and fitness. And we're going to kind of button all that up with accountability. But before we get into that conversation, Robyn, tell us a little bit about you.
So my story began as a child, like most do. We don't realize what we go through in the trauma and how we overcome it and become resilient at a very young age. And fast forward, had my first child, wanted to have a second child, and I couldn't get pregnant. You think you could have a child, you can get pregnant, but you can't. And so my book starts off with, I couldn't get pregnant with my second child. I went to specialist after specialist, got tons of blood work done through an infertility specialist, went in for blood work for that, but I came out diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's, which is not life-threatening, but it is life-changing. And that's thyroid autoimmune disease, as well as other health complications. After that, I went to doctor after doctor after doctor for 2.5 years, getting sicker and sicker and sicker from the medication. I didn't have any symptoms before that I knew of. After getting on the medication, my hair started falling out, my nails were brittle, I was in a brain fog, had to stop working, couldn't take care of my toddler at the time. I'd be driving and end up someplace else. It was scary. I had no idea what was happening to my body. And I thought, you know what, this can't be my life. This is not why I had a child. This is not why I'm living. So if it's up to me, it's meant to be. I figured out how to help myself through nutrition, fitness, mindset, and accountability. And I found functional medicine. Realized that I was allergic to the medication because of the fillers that they put in, the main medication. Went on a compounded medication, as well as a lower dose of hyperallergenic and supplementation because I was deficient in multiple vitamins and minerals. Within 30 days or less, I was feeling better. My energy was higher. My mindset was on point. I just started feeling like I was living again instead of existing. And I've always been an athlete, but I wasn't fueling my body for the right nutrition with my autoimmune disease, right? I didn't have my mindset right. I had to switch that. I had to overcome adversity. I had to overcome some childhood trauma and other things that happened in my life. And I wasn't working out the way I should for my autoimmune disease. I was a cardio junkie, and I started lifting weights. And you know what happens, Enrique, is when we start to feel better, people notice. We're happier, we're present, we're on social media, we're out with the kids, with friends. So some of my friends and neighbors asked what I was doing, and I started helping a few people on the side, and they got results in 3 days. Their energy was skyrocketed. And then I took them through the process of 90 days to their best self. And here I am today with tons of clients. I had a marketing and advertising background, thought I'd always go back to that, but I use my sales background in my online coaching and speaking to this day.
Amazing story. And wow, bless your heart that had to go through all of that. And you mentioned something very important, right? It's a difference between existing and
Hmm.
living. In a situation where you found yourself like you did, that's apparent. A lot of people are in a situation where they are looking for ways to be living instead of existing. And you often talk about the power of the clear mindset. And what are some simple yet effective daily practices people can use to reset their mental clarity and regain focus?
Absolutely. And that's a great question because mental clarity is not just nice to have, it's what I recommend. And I call it the high five because there's 5 ways that we get to start our morning that will set you up for success. First is make your bed. Get up and make your bed. That's your first win of the day. And then you're winning the rest of the day. Do not look at your phone is number 2. Do not mess with that phone. It is a disaster. And drink a cup of water. We drink 8 ounces of water right when we get up. We hydrate because we wake up dehydrated, and it truly does help us. Get outside in the sunshine. Your body needs vitamin D. Literally stick your face out in the sun, close your eyes and look in the sun, and movement. You have to be able to move your body in order to get your mind right. And, mindset isn't just about staying positive, it's about building the mental muscle to respond rather than react.
As you were talking, I was thinking about a car, man. You don't get in a car and don't check the oil, don't check the gas, don't check the thing. And so we're more savvy on making sure our vehicles are
Right?
ready for the day
Yes.
than we are. And it's a shame, but it is how we fall into things during life. It's what people do. So great points there, and some that I know I kind of do. I ground, I make sure I get in the sun, I make sure I get some electrolytes into my body because I know they're depleted throughout the day. These
Yes.
are very, very good things. And above all, folks, good sleep doesn't help. It helps a lot, right? And so make sure you get some of that. So when it comes to nutrition, as you talk about, hey, my mind was right, I got that, but
Mhm.
I was eating something. Some things were depleting me. Some things were making me worse. So when it comes to nutrition, what are a few targeted changes that someone can make, today that would have the biggest impact on their energy levels?
Adding protein to your morning is essential. Most people start their day carb heavy. Swap that for 25 to 30 grams of protein. I love chicken bone broth protein. It helps to stabilize your blood sugar and avoid the 2 p.m. crash. And like you mentioned, Enrique, you want to hydrate first thing. Add sea salt or electrolytes to your first glass of water to rehydrate and support your adrenal function, which is key to being energized. And you have to also understand the hidden energy leaks. You want to avoid foods that cause inflammation or gut distress, like seed oils or foods with pea protein, which I personally avoid because it affects your thyroid, because they all sneak in and drag your energy down. And we want to be able to keep our energy up. So, nutrition education is key. And by having these small changes, they may seem really small, but what happens is the compound effect, and they will help you be energized, especially if you're dealing with chronic fatigue or burnout. As a leader, we need to have the highest energy that we can possibly have. And it's proven. Harvard did a study recently. I just did a post on this week, and it says, a certain percentage, I think it was 88% of people that do not eat properly in the morning, their energy is down, which affects their productivity, right? So if you want to be and continue to be a productive high leader, then you need to fuel your body first. So have your protein, have your water, have your electrolytes, and just doing these simple steps will allow you to be energized and be more productive.
And talking about the body, a lot of leaders are conscious of, hey, what I look like, and they hit the
Yes,
gym. And we all know the January rush to the gyms,
that's
right?
so
Everybody's trying
true.
to trying to get so fit and trying to get this and that, but intentional fitness sounds different
Yes.
from just hitting the gym. So can you break down what what that means and how people can approach fitness with more purpose.
Absolutely. And I do want to mention most people make New Year's resolutions, but January 12th is like a national holiday, literally. That's when most people stop going to the gym. 12 days into the year. Like, just don't even call it a resolution. Just making small daily wins get you to the bigger goal. So yes, intentional fitness means moving your body in a way that supports the life you want to live, not punishing it to fix something. It's movement with alignment. And I always ask my clients, how do you want to feel? Strong, mobile, confident? Then your fitness should mirror that. For beginners or those rebuilding after chronic illness, it might look like this, or people that just want to get stronger. Short functional movement sessions at home with light weights, right? You don't have to be lifting super heavy weights. It can be light weights, 5 pounds, 10 pounds. And you also want to get your movement in, right? You're walking or dancing. We all know, well, your listeners might not know, but I'm a hip hop dancer and I used to teach Zumba. So just get that dance in, do something that brings you joy and have those joy injections daily. And then progressive strength training to build lean muscle for long-term energy. Then fitness becomes sustainable when it's part of your identity, not just on your to-do list. And that is key. It's not something you want to check off. It's something that you want to be intentional with as you are intentionally living in order to feel better, energize yourself, and just be a healthier human.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier burned out, right? I
Yeah.
know I've experienced periods in my life where, as a leader, I just got burned out, both with the mission, with the people, with the business. It just all came to point, and life doesn't stop just because things are happening to you elsewhere. So, for someone feeling overwhelmed or burned out,
Mhm.
where should they start? Should they start with the mindset, nutrition, or fitness? And how do you recommend prioritizing these areas in their life?
So I recommend you start where you get the most momentum, not just results. That's usually your mindset. Because when you shift how you see yourself, everything else becomes easier. But if your body is completely depleted, I'd pair that with foundational nutrition support, hydration, blood sugar balance, and protein. So you're not fighting your biology while you're trying to think positive. And fitness comes next, not because it's less important, but because once you have clarity and fuel, movement becomes empowering, not exhausting. And that's the key. We want to incorporate these into our lives, but make it something that brings us joy, not something that's a to-do list.
Very important to realize, hey, what's giving me the most for my effort?
Mhm.
And because you don't want to force your way into something that's just not working for you. And so the mind is primal. Now, you mentioned four pillars, right?
Yes,
Accountability is one of the
it
things
is.
that you talk about. So, can you share a story of a client or something that you experienced where mindset, nutrition, fitness, and accountability came together to truly transform somebody's life?
Yes, one of my clients comes to mind who is a high achieving executive who came to me completely depleted, convinced that exhaustion was the price of success. We began with mindset work, helping her shift from survival mode to truly believing that thriving was possible. That mental reframe cracked the door open. Then we dialed into nutrition, replacing energy draining inflammation or inflammatory foods with protein rich meals such as bone broth. I always get that messed up, but I'm telling you, that is the number one thing to have because it's one of the number one complete proteins that you can have. And put that in a smoothie. There's no taste to it. And you can add all of these things to your smoothie that will stabilize your blood sugar and that will fuel your body and your brain. And that's exactly what happened to my client. From there, we introduced intentional fitness, starting with short, manageable strength building routines at home that didn't overwhelm her nervous system. Movement became a gift, not a punishment. And that is also key because, Enrique, if we are eating and then punishing ourselves by working out, that's not going to work because then we haven't shifted our mindset. So I was able to help my client shift her mindset as a model of positive change, knowing that what she's eating is fueling her body and working out will help her get the results and feel good. But what made it stick was the accountability. We met weekly to track her wins, troubleshoot obstacles, and recalibrate without guilt. That consistent support gave her permission to prioritize herself and built momentum she could actually sustain. And within 90 days, she wasn't just any more energized. She had reconnected with her creativity, felt more present with her family, and stepped back into leadership with clarity and confidence. And when you bring this all together with mindset, nutrition, fitness, and accountability work, real transformation happens, not just in the body, but in your identity. And you are able to overcome your adversities. You have more confidence. You are showing up at your leadership meetings differently. You're talking differently. The people you surround yourself with are different because you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out most with. And in this case, my client stopped hanging out with some of her friends, right? Not because she didn't like them, but because they weren't in her energy vortex in the moment, right? And she found other people that could identify with that. And the accountability is the key piece that holds it together because most people fail because they don't have accountability. And they go into the cycle of start and stop every 4 to 6 weeks, which is very common with a lot of my clients. But when I'm able to help them shift their mindset and hold them accountable for what they want as the end goal, that's where the magic happens.
Amazing. And folks, wherever you flow is where you go, right? So sometimes you do have to make those changes in your environment to include certain people. Not that they are bad in terms of who they are, they just may not be aligned with where you're going. And so you do want to get rid of some of the weights, right, that could drag you back. And sometimes they come in forms of people and even people that you may love and you don't stop loving them. But if it's not helping you on your journey, you do need to learn how to let go, right? And
Yes,
one of the mindset
exactly.
pieces of, hey, is this really beneficial to me to the point for me to hold on in jeopardy of my goals, right? And so, great suggestion, great example there. Now, I know that you not only are you doing this for yourself, you're doing this for clients. You wrote a book. Now people can read about it and get there. But what do you have coming up, and where can the viewer or the listener follow you and support you?
So where I'm going is that I'm going on tour with my best-selling book, Exhausted to Energize, 90 Days to Your Best Self. I am speaking on stages. I'm doing workshops. I am helping those people in sales, in healthcare, in what your field is that has a high burnout rate, that is exhausted, right? Which helps me, what I can do is help align you to your higher self, to your better self, right? And so I do that through sharing my story. I do that through helping you find small, daily, micro manageable skills with nutrition, fitness, mindset, and accountability that will help you thrive in life so you are not existing and you can go forward and you can live the life of your dreams. And I work with C-suite, VP directors, high-level profile professionals that are in leadership, that are in a high stressful area of their life with work and or personal. And people can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out most. Facebook and Instagram, as well as my website. And it's all my name, Robyn Engelson, which is ROBYNENGELSON. So I'm so excited to hear from you. Don't be a stranger, and definitely contact Robyn with a Y.
Outstanding. Well, folks, we're going to have all those links and forms of getting a hold of Robyn as part of the show notes and the video, so you can do so. I want to remind everybody that today's episode is sponsored by the Global Trends Magazine, the Outlier Project, Fantail Services, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, Ascend Meditations, and Chop AI. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. Tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.